And we do have some questions online. Okay.
Gosh, that's a big question actually. How to help them with nausea. Firstly, it's important when you're around them, if you're around them. I mean, obviously medical help, or I mean, I'm a shiatsu practitioner, so I would look at different ways of doing that. But it's important to be very calm around them, to not get agitated with their agitation. So one of the things that happens when you're unwell is that you become very agitated. So by giving someone confidence and saying, don't worry, look, we're going to do the best we can for you, that helps them calm down and their nervous system calms down through nausea. There are many, many different techniques. I'm a big fan of acupuncture, but modern medicine has techniques, so you need to find those out. But in terms of attitude, you need to be as calm and reassuring around them to really give them confidence that you're going to try and help them. If you get caught up in their fear and worry, it just makes it worse for them. So in other words, we create a sense of compassion and love, but also calmness around them, and say, look, you know, we'll work through this, and that then allows them to calm down, and it may actually change their physical reactions to things. Okay.
Great, thank you so much, Rod. Okay, the next one is from Elise. Hi Rod, thank you for the wonderful talk. You mentioned that love is wanting the happiness of others. At what point does wanting the happiness of others become a people-pleasing act or taking responsibility of others' emotions, i.e. overly empathetic?
Okay, so wanting others to be happy is not about becoming a people-pleaser, all right? You don't run around and go, oh yeah, I've got to help everybody. It's being absolutely present, and having this desire for people to be happy is not stepping over your boundaries. All right, so you don't start going out and, well, we call it idiot compassion in Buddhism actually. And idiot compassion is where you decide that you're going to help everybody, and there's a little old lady standing by the side of the road, and you think, oh, well, I help little old ladies across the road, and you grab her and you start taking her across the road, and you're going, I don't want to go. And I was giving this talk one time, this question came up at our centre, and this guy said, oh yeah, I did that to a little old lady, and she started hitting me with an umbrella saying, I don't want to go across the road. So we need to be very clear about how we can help, and sometimes being quiet and not giving advice is important. And we have to know our own boundaries. If you start giving beyond what you can give, and then you start regretting it, it becomes a real problem. So you need to know your capacity for compassion and love, and be prepared to say no sometimes for your own health. You know, if you become a people pleaser so much that your health is ruined, you're working night and day, you get sick, then someone else has to look after you. So it's not very helpful doing that. So you need to know your boundaries and know your capabilities, and really look at yourself and say, can I really help this person? Or maybe helping this person is actually getting out of their road. And that's the development of wisdom. So wisdom and compassion need to go together, not just, oh, I'm going to help everybody. I'll give you an example of myself. I was walking up Oxford Street in Sydney, and there was a blind person walking down the street with a stick, and they had a parcel. And they dropped the parcel. And me, without wisdom, picked it up immediately and put it in front of them. And they said, did you pick up my parcel? Because they went down to pick it up. And I went, yeah. And they said, they grabbed me on the arm and they said, I'm blind. Can you understand that you need to talk to a blind person and tell them you're picking up the parcel? And I went, oh, okay. There was my people pleaser trying to do the right thing, and I wasn't using wisdom. So I learnt that lesson. Yeah. Okay, next one.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the great answer. The next one is a story from Sin Sin. Hi Rod, good to see you again. I remember holding a wet umbrella while getting on the bus many years ago, and I didn't realise the water dripping on the bus driver's lap. He was so annoyed and I said sorry. During the bus trip, I tried sending him Metta. As I was getting off the bus, he said sorry to me.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Perfect example. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great.
Mayanne?
Yeah, I just, when I saw the topic, I was quite intrigued in, basically my partner's overseas in Germany at the moment, and he was talking about the impending winter in Europe, and that there's this enormous sense of dread in the country about gas supplies and the war, and that it's very real because there's a lot of Ukrainian refugees all over Europe at the moment.
Sure.
We don't really have that problem, but for them it's a very real dread.
Yeah.
Just wondering about like what would be the approach for that or understanding?
Look, we can't fix the world, okay? So we don't have that opportunity. But we have to work as much as we can with our own attitudes. So if we're talking to someone in Europe about it and the difficulties they're having, we do what we can emotionally, but we don't actually have that ability to change things. They often talk about your karma, Buddha's power equal. You ever heard that statement? Okay. If the Buddha could remove all our suffering, he would have done it. Our karma is our creation. And so we have to recognise that we sometimes don't have the power to change things for other people, but we can change ourselves. And what the Buddha did was become enlightened and be able to teach people how to let go anger and suffering and all those different things. Unfortunately, what's happening in the world at the moment is a continuation of what's been happening for thousands of years, war and suffering and misery. There's no point getting involved in the idea of revenge or the idea of anger or any of those things. We have to work within ourselves. And if we work within ourselves, often that can resonate with somebody else. We can't just say, oh, well, you've got to be more positive or you've got to be more peaceful. That can actually cause more problems. But we have to do it in ourselves, and we have to emulate that, and that can help people calm down. In fact, there was a situation where I taught meditation to a company, and I did a review 3 months later, and this woman said to me, do you realise you saved my marriage? I went, what? She said, you taught me meditation. And she said, every year I go to England to see my family, and my husband comes with me, and she said he's this complete stress head. She said he gets to the airport 4 hours early, he checks the ticket 35 times. She said, by the time we get to England, we're absolutely just about to get divorced, and this happens every year. She said, what I did after your meditation course, she said, I got up 15 minutes early every morning and meditated. And she said, guess what? He calmed down. So she was resonating this attitude of calmness, and he started to settle. And that's about the best we can do for other people, is if we work on ourselves and radiate some positivity, without saying, oh, you've got to be positive. That's really a bit aggressive. In other words, we be positive ourselves. That can help the other person. It helps them calm down. And I remember once when I was going through a really difficult time with my life, and the people that were the most helpful were the calm people that just sat with me and didn't give me advice, just were there. And I gravitated towards those people because I felt this quality of love and compassion. So that's about all we can do, and do prayers, absolutely, for this suffering to end. But yeah, we're in a difficult situation on the planet at the moment, for sure. Yeah.
Thank you. Is it recording?
Any other questions?
Okay, 2 more questions, if that's okay. Yeah, fantastic. All right. So one is, good question. How do you take the first step to letting go and accepting nothing is permanent? In a nutshell.
By watching impermanence in front of you. Just going, okay, that's impermanent. But you start with the little things, okay? You have to start with, okay, to give you an example, you've just bought a brand new car. Do you know what the big suffering is? The first scratch. Not the second one, just the first scratch. That's the suffering. Oh no, I've got a scratch on my car or a prang or something. We have to be able to just start with the very small and just look at that. There was a famous teacher, a teacher, who would sit by a river and watch the river go past. And that was his teaching on impermanence, that everything changed. So we just have to accept that. And if we look around and see that that's happening, we start to go, okay, this is normal, you know? And so in the beginning, we just start with small things. So when something doesn't work out, or something falls apart, or you lose a watch, at first you might, oh, your favourite watch, and then all of a sudden you go, okay, well that's impermanent, it's going to rust out. So you need to work just small, and then expand until you really get used to this idea of letting go, just letting go, letting go. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. And the next one is related to it, and I do note the time. So last one, I struggle with grasping onto impermanence as in I think everything is not going to work out because nothing is permanent. Do you have any advice on how I can stop
Okay,
this?
so that's the other side. That's the other side of the fence. Everything's impermanent, so everything's going to leave me. It's not about getting emotionally caught up in that, and that's kind of negative thinking. Oh well, this isn't going to last. That's projecting that the peace and happiness you're having at the moment is going to finish, and therefore I feel negative about it. So we don't jump into that. We just accept that things are going to change and enjoy them for what they are. If I'm looking at, going back to the rainbow, if I'm looking at the rainbow and going, oh, I can't enjoy this because it's going to disappear, you're creating this negative thinking. So we actually have to let go of that. So it's letting go of impermanence, but it's also letting go of negative projection. Oh, this isn't going to last, it's going to be unhappy. Not necessarily so. We don't know until we get to it. And then things are never so bad as we often project. My dear mother that passed away at 99 years of age, here's an example, was an unbelievable worrier. If I was late visiting her, I was definitely in a hospital, in a car accident. Definitely, you know. So there was me being impermanent in her mind. At the age of 90, she said, you know what? She said, my whole life, I worried about all the things that could happen. And she said, they never happened. She said, the things I didn't expect happened. She said, so I spent all these years worrying about things, thinking that if I worry about it, I'm going to be prepared for something bad to happen. And she said, those things didn't happen. She said, I kind of wasted a lot of energy over fearing that something wasn't going to go the way I wanted it to go. She said, I'm sorry I did that. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Rod, for the excellent talk, and thank you for your patience and wisdom in sharing and answering our questions as well. And thanks for those online as well for your patience. I know we had a little bit of a jig with some of the internet at the beginning, but all of this recording will be online, so you can also watch it again if you like as well. So I'm going to pass it back over to Elise as our MC today.
Thank you so much, Rod, and thank you everyone for being present and contributing to this beautiful, beautiful talk. I've gained a lot out of it, especially knowing that we can't change others, but we can change ourselves. And through changing ourselves, we can inspire others. So thank you, Rod, for that. Before we finish off, Rod, would you like to help us with the dedication of Metta?
Yeah, I would. So I'd really like you to think about this really deeply, wishing all beings to be free of suffering and to have happiness and to achieve high rebirths and be a benefit to all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks everyone.
Good to see you.
See ya. Thanks for joining me.